Good afternoon, guys. Week 5. So we're about to cover 1/3 of this semester. I hope you had a great weekend. And today we're going to start again by me giving you some feedback on what you submitted by last night, and then cover the material for today, which is chapter 7. And make sure you know that I have my notes here. For next week, you have LO 13, 14, and 15 office hours tomorrow from 8 to 12:30. Additionally, we have our second out of the 6 synchronous meetings on Wednesday at 10, my bad, at 10 in the morning, and I'm going to include the link in the email that I usually send out with the link for this video. So I'm going to go ahead and share our Moodle site, which is right here. Okay, come on, share. There we go. So we had these three for last week. LO 10, 92%. LO 11, 89%. And LO 12, 98%. So LO 11 is from GETP book, right? And I want to address 2 items. The inter-individual variability of HR max based on age is 10 degrees, beats per minute. And another question, and there's a specific sentence, specific statement on page 128 in our book, has to do with upsloping ST segment depression. That is an indication of MI, especially if there's angina, right, present. So there's a specific sentence on page 128, and although there's low positive predictive value, right, that is a true statement, okay, that it could be an indication of MI, especially if there is angina present. That's all I wanted to say for what you submitted. Very well. Just to spend a little more time, because I see a pattern on the LOs that are on chapters from the GETP book, right? The Guidelines for Exercise Testing and Prescription. For next week, I'm covering chapter 7 right here, healthy populations with special considerations today. And if I remember well, the children, adolescents, low back pain, older adults, and pregnant women. So we have LO 13, 14, 15, plus this is the synchronous meeting I was talking about. So if you click on it, boom, there's a link, time 10 o'clock this Wednesday, plus extra 10 points. So let's visit, let's talk. Let's see how we're doing, if we need to change something, if you have any questions, and what's coming next, right? So tomorrow office hours, Wednesday synchronous meeting. I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to start sharing chapter 7. Here it is. A lot of information today. Some of it we already know, so they will be fine, okay? Let's see if this is working. All right. So we'll start with children and adolescents. We're talking about healthy individuals, but they're in special populations, and we'll see why they're special. Okay, still healthy though. All right. So this group is special based on age, and because of their age, there are a lot of consequences that we're going to talk about, which affect on how we prescribe exercise for them. Right. So this first group of special population is anybody who is aged between 6 and 17, right? They are more physically than they're older, than adults, However, as you can see, only the youngest children are as physically active as recommended. So that's alarming. Okay, that's one. You see here that in the physical activity guidelines for American 2008, they said at least 60 minutes per day, moderate to vigorous intensity, right? Resistance exercise and bone loading activity. We're going to focus on that a little bit, at least 3 days per week. And one thing I want to say about this here is that resistance exercise is bone loading activity. Bone loading activity is not just resistance exercise, right? And we're going to see that in a little bit. Another key issue, which becomes more and more important, is screen time. So not only hitting those specific amounts and durations and frequencies of PA, but also find a way to limit that screen time to less than 2 hours per day, which is pretty challenging if you have any nieces or nephews or kids or siblings, you know how difficult that is. All right. Physiologically adaptive. Also concerning risks, okay, there are some risks, however, the benefits are greater. They can start with moderate intensity, vigorous, sure, if they can safely first participate in moderate, but not excessive amounts, okay, not excessive amounts. This here is important. It says, and I want you to think about it, graded exercise are qualitative, the responses are qualitatively similar to those in adults. What does that mean? So they're not quantitatively, they're qualitatively. Think about it for a second. What does that mean? So qualitative means that if we are expecting HR max to increase, HR to increase because of whatever we're putting them through, it will increase, but it won't increase as much. So it can be more or less, depends now in whatever we are investigating, but the increase or decrease we may expect in whatever variable may not be quantitatively the same. Qualitative though, yes, if we expect increase, we'll see an increase. If we'll expect a decrease, we'll see a decrease. Okay, that's what is different here because of those differences they have. Body mass, muscle mass, height. And also you can see that they have lower anaerobic capacity. Especially the issue here is for sustained vigorous intensity. So if you prescribe a vigorous intensity, make sure there's no, like there is an issue with performing sustained vigorous intensity. We don't really prescribe exercise testing for clinical purposes unless there's a specific reason for that. Correctly sized if we have to do it, and they may need extra motivation because they don't really understand why you put them through this. Okay. However, health fitness testing is something common because as in any other client you may have, you need to know where they are, point A, so then you figure out when they want to go, point B, and you prescribe a plan. So that client, although he or she is a child or adolescent, can go from A to B. Okay. Many examples, such as the Fitnessgram, you can find it online. They have specific guidelines. These are different battery of tests for children and adolescents. Okay, these are some things we should know because the responses, as we said, they're qualitatively similar, but not quantitatively. So some are lower, some are higher. We need to know that so we know what to expect. Okay, make sure you know this table. All the variables are things we have already covered. If you don't remember, go back and revisit, okay? Enjoyable activity is sure a thing. It has to be fun with children, right? If you want to increase the effort they're putting in and also them sustaining, them keep exercising. So it has to be fun. Also, unstructured play is something that we suggest. So let's say they're playing basketball, don't include all those. The point here is physical activity. It's not just, okay, that was a trauma. Cool. Move on. The thing is here is participation. Okay? It's not making them not want to participate or stopping the game all the time. Right? These are specific guidelines, and I want to go back to an initial comment I made that resistance training is bone strengthening. Bone strengthening activities is not just resistance training. And you see examples such as running, jump rope, basketball, tennis, hopscotch, all of this, climbing a tree, whatever. These are bone strengthening exercises, right? So yes, resistance training will strengthen the bones, but it's not the only thing they should be doing. That's crucial for them. Proper instruction, of course, supervision, of course, because they are mentally immature. Okay, you don't want them to get injured. They have immature thermoregulatory system, which means they cannot reject the heat that is going up in their body as they're exercising as efficient as an adult. So you will see them sweat less. So do not use the sweat rate as an indicator of them trying hard or not. Okay, that's not accurate with children. Also, because you don't see them sweat, it doesn't mean they should be hydrated. So you keep hydrating them and keep avoiding those hot, humid environments. The more they exercise, the more they don't just sit and play video games, right? Also, a big thing here is creating habits. That's huge. All right, second group of healthy individuals, but special populations as well. Low back pain, right? It's so prevalent that we had to create a whole group about it. What is it? Pain, muscle tension, or stiffness localized below the rib margin and above the inferior gluteal fold. If you don't know what gluteal fold is, look it up. You should know what it is, anatomically speaking, right? And it's a very important anatomic region, especially in children or babies when they're getting born and then they're getting developing. It's really important when we're taking measurements. All right, with or without leg pain. We'll talk about localized, centralized, and all of this in a little bit. Huge range from 4 to 33% of the total population, so it may go up to 1/3 of us experiencing LBP at any point of time, and you can see that 70% of the cases may happen again. 20% of the cases, so 1 out of 5, are chronic, so for more than 3 months, and 10% of them, 1 out of 10, may cause disability. All right, so we have 3 kind of categories. You see that the biggest category, we don't really know the specific cause. The etiology behind it, 85% of the cases. We have radiculopathy that has to do with some kind of, it's about pretty much all the symptoms. If you have a pinch of a nerve on the spinal column, and also very specific cause that has to do with the spinal column again, such as cancer or fracture. Acute, less than 6 weeks, subacute, 6 to 12 weeks, and chronic, more than 3 months. Okay, we covered that already. 90% is resolved within 6 weeks. That's great. Staying active is important. Staying active is important. We're not talking about we need to stay active without inducing more pain, for sure, but stay active. And that's that will give us a great pass to go to the third dot that says that there's a lot of misinformation and fear. So a lot of people think that if they just lay down, that's better. That's not better on average, okay? We need to stay active as much as possible. These are some factors, psychosocial factors for long-term disability. We don't want to cause any kind of disability. We're trying to avoid that. We need people to be functional. We need people to be independent. Okay. We don't know about how much. Definitely preventive measures or early interventions would make sense. We're trying to avoid low back pain to happen, or if it happens, to become chronic. And no matter how you see it, PA is a key component. If LBP is a symptom of another serious pathology, as you see, of course, we treat first the pathology, let's say cancer, and then we'll figure out what's going on with low back pain. If not, though, then we should directly prescribe exercise for low back pain, which is similar to all healthy individuals. Cardiorespiratory, yes. Submaximal, yes. But you see here that actual or anticipated pain that has to do again with anxiety, fear, misinformation, right, may limit the test. So whatever, if we do some kind of testing here, it's a case-by-case scenario. Muscular strength, sure. And one of the reasons that we may have LBP is muscle deficits around our trunk muscles, right? So we need to figure that out and fix it. Okay. Same considerations for general population, sure. We'll have here a test, yes, same thing. Nothing really crazy. Okay, so when we go to flexibility, this is important, that's why I have put some emphasis. There's no clear relationship between gross spinal flexibility and LBP. Let me read it again. There's no clear relationship between gross spinal flexibility and LBP. So you can be flexible and you can still have LBP. All right. Okay. Staying physically active, avoiding bed rest. We talked about that already. Everybody's encouraged to be physically active. All right. Follow general population unless there's a specific reason not to. Individualized approach, of course. What do I have here? Trunk coordination strengthening. Okay. A lot of people, that's again part of the misinformation. They may say that, strengthen your core muscles. We don't have enough evidence to say that that's enough. Okay. Abdominal bracing should be used with extreme caution. And remember, it's activating the muscles, right, around our spine to be more stable. You see, walking, especially downhill, may aggravate the symptoms, especially if you have spinal stenosis. And in general, as you can see, limit any activity that causes a peripheralization. So we need the symptoms centralized. And the next slide, I think, is about is referring to the same thing. We need the symptoms to stay around one area. If we see, for example, that the symptoms, the pain, for example, is leaving our back and is moving now down our right leg, we have called peripheralization. That's not good. Whatever we're doing, it doesn't seem to work. So, or if they're doing any activity throughout their day that does that, we should tell them no. Right? So we need to make sure we're helping our client, our patient, to localize it, to centralize it. What's right here, reduction of pain in the lower limb from distal to proximal. Okay, flexibility are generally encouraged. Okay, now here, consider progressive low-intensity aerobic exercise for individuals with chronic LBP with generalized pain, and moderate to high without. So somebody who has generalized pain, as you understand here, is in a worse position. So we are prescribing low intensity to them. If it's not generalized, that looks like a better situation. So we're pushing it a little bit more, right? We're prescribing them moderate to high intensity. All right, now we're going to the third out of the four groups for today, older adults. That's the definition, 65 and above, or above 50 with significant conditions that affect movement, fitness, or physical activity. Also, another important thing to consider before we even move any further is that health and functional status are often better indicators of ability to engage in PA than chronological age. You may be 65 and move like you're 45. You may be 45 and move like you're 65. So just the chronological age should not be enough for us to prescribe exercise, okay? We should focus more on their health and their functional ability than their age as a distant number. All these great benefits, we've covered them already. The least physical active groups, right? And we know that that group is becoming bigger and bigger. 11% of individuals 65 and above engage in regular aerobic exercise and muscle strengthening activities. And one more piece of data that is alarming, less than 5% of individuals aged 85 and above engage in regular aerobic and muscle strengthening activities. We talked about all this. If you don't know any of the variables, go back and revisit. We've covered them in 212. You should know all of this. We should also know what sensitivity and specificity, right? We've covered that already. If you don't remember, go back and revisit. Nothing too fancy here. This is the initial workload, less than 3 minutes. We're going to talk about how we measure intensity for older adults. Yeah, include a handrail if it is important for them to stand. However, you know that whatever measurements you get, they will be a little bit altered because it's just using the handrail. Increase grade rather than speed, okay? Because they, in a way, they can increase their length, but they can increase the rate, or it's easier for them. Influence of prescribed medications. Make sure you understand that and you take that into consideration. Most of them, or all of them, pretty much have some kind, at least one, chronic medical condition. Physical limitations, you should expect them. We should expect them to increase with age. What else? All right, nothing really here. Except for, instead of exercise stress testing, we are using physical performance testing for older adults. We've talked about the exercise testing. In 212, we covered it in 214 in the beginning of this semester. So here we're going to see a lot of examples. We can go online and Google them. There are a battery of tests that we use, and they're better predictors of their functionality than doing those exercise tests that we've covered for other adults. It should not be a barrier to PA, relevant adaptations. Of course, their adaptations are comparable with younger adults, comparable, right? You see that an appropriate exercise prescription should include all of those health-related components, but of course, we should also most likely include neuromotor exercises because we improve their balance. here, concerning intensity, when we're talking about healthy younger adults, we use meds, right? Older adults, it has been proven that it may be better to use a point system from 0 to 10, right? And 5 to 6 is moderate intensity. This is a table that includes everything that has to do with aerobic resistance and flexibility that you should know. That's the way you should start when you are training an older adult. 2 to 3 days per week for the neuromotor exercise training. Progressive difficult postures, right? 2 leg stand, semi-tandem, tandem, and 1 leg, of course. Center of gravity, that's another thing. You can manipulate that and make it easier or harder for them. Heel to toe, standing with eyes closed, that's really challenging for older adults. So if you make it more challenging, stay close, okay? So if it's very dynamic, right, and then you do some kind of zigzag movement, stay close. If they need to close their eyes, stay close. They may just fall down. They won't even know, okay? So make sure you're there. Light at the beginning, play it safe, conservative approach, of course. Definitely resistance training because we lose strength above the age of 50. So it's even more important, it could be even more important to do resistance training and aerobic in some of them. Okay. Power training, very important. I want you to think, we've covered that before, which type of muscle fiber do they lose more? Do we lose more as we age? That will lead you to why we're losing power as we age, right? Hope you remember what sarcopenia. If they can do more, let them do more. Of course, there are huge benefits on cognition, especially if you give them exercises that they have some kind of thinking in there and they have to do something, just not go just from A to B. They have to go above something, think about something, make a decision that it's even more helpful but more challenging for them to fall. So again, supervise, cool down, very important. We have a lot of issues and a lot of events that happen, like cardiovascular events that happen during the cool down phase. So large cool down phase, stay with them, supervise, okay? Behavioral strategies, it is important, very, very important for them to have social support, for example. They have to have the self-efficacy, which is the ability to think that, you can do something. You have to help them. You don't want them. Adherence is really important here, and it will be affected by all of this. All right, last group for tonight, pregnancy. So if you're healthy and you're pregnant, the doctor says it's okay. You can exercise throughout the whole thing, or most of it, okay? These are benefits. Weight gain that you may get during pregnancy, diabetes, preeclampsia, which is pregnancy-induced hypertension, low back pain, of course, because the center of gravity changes, right? Right? Physiologically, you change when you're pregnant. Okay, urinary incontinence, depressive symptoms, fitness, and also prevention of postpartum weight retention. All good. Now, maximal exercise testing, not really preferable. If we have to do some kind of exercise testing, we need a physician, okay? These are the relative and absolute contraindications. I hope you remember that absolute contraindications are always worse, right? What do we see here? I don't want to go into details. You don't really need to know why this is called hemodynamically significant heart disease. It's fine. Restrictive, I know you know what's restrictive. Lung disease, right? We cover that. Incompetent cervix. So the muscles are not strong enough there. Multiple gestation means more than one baby, right? 2, 3, whatever. Second, third trimester bleeding. Placenta previa is when the placenta is just pretty much in a way that closes the cervix. Premature labor, rupture membranes, and preeclampsia, which we said, well, that's hypertension. Okay. Generally increase the acute responses right after the exercise, right? Um, Nothing really fancy here. There's some physiological response we should know and expect. So we know what to do. Consistent with recommendations, the recommendations for healthy pregnant women are the same for healthy adults. They may be a little bit modified based on the trimester and kind of discomforts and all this. We've talked about PARMED X for pregnancy, which is this, right? And if we go closer, you see absolute relative contraindications. You see absolute, again, things that we already covered. You see rupture membranes, bleeding, hypertension, competent cervix, intrauterine growth restriction is the so-called IUGR, and pretty much means that the baby doesn't grow as much as they were expected to. Yeah, okay, nothing really that we haven't covered already. Okay, now resistance exercise, right? If it's not beneficial, at least it doesn't hurt. All right, these are the guidelines for pregnant women. No ideal number of days for exercise, but it really depends also on whether you were exercising before, your fitness levels before. So we have to take that into consideration, right? You can't start doing everything during pregnancy and then before pregnancy you haven't never touched a dumbbell in your life. This is a nice table that combines fitness level and aids in terms of beats per minute for pregnant women. We covered that already. Kettle exercises have to do with the pelvic floor muscles. So as you understand, those are important for pregnant women. Supine position is something that is associated with blood flow. So if we keep them on the supine position for a prolonged period of time, right, that we may have some decreased venous return, which means decreased Q, cardiac output, and that's not good for the mama or the baby. So avoid that. Again, issue with the thermoregulatory system, so avoid hot, humid environments, hydrate them, and so on and so forth. Another cool thing, we've covered that already, right? But when you're pregnant, you don't need a huge amount of calories for the baby, right? So you see that it's like 300 calories. 300 calories is not a large amount of calories. So a lot of pregnant women eat more and thinking that it's for the baby. It's not for the baby, and that's how they gain weight. Okay, just have that in mind. Avoid contact sports, obviously. Avoid scuba diving, obviously, right? Avoid hiking in really high altitudes, obviously. Valsalva maneuver increases blood pressure. Isometric contraction, same thing. So postpartum now. The baby was delivered. What are we doing next? Well, here, if we have a vaginal delivery, you see 4 to 6 weeks, and you can start 8 to 10 weeks. You can just, if it's a cesarean section, okay, delivery. So it really depends. But soon enough, they can go back to it, and the doctor has to clear them, right? So if your fitness status was higher before pregnancy, of course, it would be different for a woman like that compared to somebody who wasn't training before or whose CRF level was lower. So it really depends on your levels before, but also what kind of delivery and how the whole thing went. Okay. Make sure, a lot of times we say do not breastfeed them after exercise because the toxicity of the milk may be a little bit higher. But yeah, so there's that. We cover really, I think, interesting chapter. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know. Here, I have to say one more time that you have the LOs 13, 14, and 15 for this week. We have office hours tomorrow at 8, so from 8 to 12:30 for 4.5 hours. Please log on. Let's visit. If you can make that Wednesday at 10, from 10 to 10:45, 45 minutes, where we can visit again, and it's more like course specific, and you can give me feedback, and we can talk about what's coming next, whatever you want. All right, I'm here for you. Let me know if you need anything.